All right, let's talk about the upcoming assignment. The upcoming assignment will give you a chance to play around with a single-page application, and specifically implemented using React. Right? Today, the more common way of implementing applications, dynamic applications on the client, is to use a single-page application strategy, of which there's quite a few libraries out there and frameworks that support this style of building web applications, of which React is just one of them. In this course, we'll see at least two of them. We'll see React, and later on we'll look at Angular. But certainly there's plenty of them out there competing amongst each other. Vue is also becoming another alternative, and I might consider adding that to the course at some point. But right now we'll look at React for implementing a dynamic client. So we're gonna be creating a React application that is going to add a couple of additional features for the faculty application that we've been building. Right? In this case, it'll be the faculty being able to see a list of the courses that they've authored, being able to select a particular course and navigate to the course editor for that particular course, being able to see all the modules that are for that that are included in that particular course, selecting a module and seeing the lessons for that course, selecting a lesson and seeing what the topics are, right? And we'll leave it at that. The next week when we introduce Redux, we'll focus on the widget, on the part where you can drag and drop widgets in there, move their positions around for a particular topic. So remember, right? We have the relationship between the faculty can author many courses. Each course has many modules. Each module can have many lessons. Each lesson can have many topics. And then each topic can have any number of widgets. So for this assignment, we'll focus on navigation. Right? We'll be able to navigate from the home page down to a particular course, and then modules, lessons, and whatnot. And the widgets, it'll be static for this time around. You can copy perhaps the static content that you developed for the previous assignment. You can use that static content for this as well. Next week, we'll come back and we'll make that portion dynamic. Now, for this assignment, we're going to be using the standard out-of-the-box way that you handle state in a React application, right? And we'll notice we'll point out some of the challenges of using the out-of-the-box strategy of having containers and components, sharing state information about the application, having to drill down all that state back and forth between different levels of these components. So having you address some of those challenges, next week we'll introduce a different technique for handling state, application state. We'll talk about Redux as a completely different alternative of maintaining application state. But this week we'll just use out of the box, bare bones React. Okay. So you'll create a project, a React project, using the Create React App application, which you can install using Node.js, and you'll call it something like whiteboard fall 2018, and then your first name and your last name. Okay? And then you'll deploy this on Heroku and make it available remotely on Heroku. Once you have the project, this asks you to create a couple of services, just like we created services in jQuery. Same thing here. We'll create a service here for our courses. In last week, the service was working with the entity of users, right? So be able to create users, find users, update users, delete users, everything to do with manipulating the user entities. In this case, you'll be manipulating courses. You'll be able to create courses, find courses, update a course, delete a course, things like that. So very similar. We're following the same pattern we followed last week. It's a very common design pattern, right? That all data access should always go through a particular module or reusable component that is the only entry point for manipulating data. Eventually, these services will become true services where they're going to be connecting to a database, to a server in the back end, interconnecting with a RESTful API. Right now, they don't do that, but nevertheless, they provide the same API that we're going to be using later on, right? So they're already establishing an API, common API, and forcing everybody else, right, to use this API to access data. Even though right now it's a little bit of an overkill, will set us up for later on being able to connect to a RESTful service. So yeah, so a coarse service. This service, the coarse service, is just going to serve up this JSON content, which includes IDs. So it's just an array of courses. So it's an array of courses. So it contains several JSON objects. So here's an array. Here's one of the courses, and I think it ends right here. It just has one course, but it can have any number of courses, and you're free to add more courses if you want, right? Just to test this. Each course has an ID, a unique identifier, as a title for the course. It has an array of modules. Each module, so here's an array of modules. So here's a module 1. I guess it's just one module, and then an empty module here. Each module, again, has a title, and it has a lessons. Each lesson, again, it's an array. And here's, I think I just have one lesson. Yeah, just one lesson. Each lesson, again, has a title and a topic. And here you have just one topic. And the topic here has several hard-coded widgets. Actually, these widgets right now, we don't need it because we're going to be using a hard-coded HTML content for the widgets, right? But eventually, this would be what the widget array would look like. Some widgets being headings, some widgets being paragraphs, some widgets being lists, images, and whatnot. Make sense? All right. All right. So that's the data that the service initially is going to serve up, right? That's just one course. But the service will allow you to create and push new course objects onto that array, right? Or remove them, or update them, and whatnot. Okay. All right. So one of the things that we're going to do is in the home page is we're going to want to be able to display a list of courses, a set of courses, right? And as the wireframe showed last week, we had two ways of displaying it, right? Displaying as either as a table or displaying as in a grid, right? So we're going to have to implement two different components to be able to represent and render them in two different ways. So there will be a top-level a component that will house two different components, either a course table or a course grid, and it will toggle between the two, which one to show, right? If you click on the grid, it'll show the grid. If you click on the table, it'll show the table. And this shows the different types of components, the component table. Basically, it'll be a table of multiple rows. Each row themselves will be another component, right? So what React encourages us to do, as we'll see in a minute, it encourages us to break up our application into multiple components and subcomponents and subcomponents in such a way that ideally each one of those components would be reusable, so I can re-render it wherever I want. Okay. With some of these components having a special role in the architecture. Some components will be maintaining state, and some components don't maintain state, right? Where typically you'll have higher level components maintaining state for the lower level components, right? So they would be responsible for maintaining, the list of courses or the list of modules or the list of topics, right? And any updates to the state would be handled by that one component, right? If you add a module, well, the module list handles the new module, adding the new module, or deleting the module, or finding which one is the selected module and whatnot. And then it then is responsible for letting everybody else know, all the other subcomponents know what the current state is, right? But the lower level components are not responsible for maintaining their own state, right? They're meant to be given the state by someone above them, right? Their only responsibility is to render that state, right? And so typically we make distinction between these two types of components. We mentioned that components that are meant to maintain state, we call them containers, right? Whereas components that are meant to not maintain any state, right, we call them just plain old components, right? And typically they're implemented in two different ways. We'll see a little later that there are two styles of implementation. One would be for implementing stateless components or implementing stateful components, right? Those that maintain state or not maintain state. And we'll see that their syntax is quite different. So for instance, for the course table component, which might actually not be a component, would be a container perhaps, keeping track of the list of courses, it's actually going to have a sub-component called a course row. So the table will be a collection of multiple rows, right? So the course table will maintain an array of all the courses, and then iterate over that array of courses. As it iterates, it tells each component row, it'll pass a reference to the course that you want rendered, right? So the course row will be responsible for rendering that particular course. You know, the title, and then providing all the buttons and all the icons for manipulating that course. Okay, but the big distinction here is that the course table will typically be stateful, whereas the course row will be stateless, right? Where the course row will keep track of which courses am I rendering, if I'm adding a new course, am I deleting a course, which one is currently selected, and things like that will be maintained by the higher level course table container, whereas the course row won't know whether won't know anything about the overall lifespan of its siblings. Okay. So here's just borrowing some of the wireframe from the previous assignment. This is the suggested rendering of the course table. And alongside with that, we'll have also a course grid. And the course grid is representing the same information, but representing in a different layout. And the course grid will be also kind of like a container that will keep track of all of its courses. And as it iterates over the array of courses, it will render a course card, right? Kind of like a box, right, that represents each one of the courses in a card, right, in a rectangular box. And same thing, the course grid presumably will be stateful, whereas the course card will be stateless, right, just only representing its rendering of the course. The course grid, the course table, as mentioned in the previous assignment, was responsive, right? As the width of the window changed, it had to respond to that. So, for instance, as it became less and less, more and more narrower, it would hide the more and more columns, right? Up until the case where you only had the title and the X here. So same thing with the course grid. The course grid also is going to be responsive. So here's a suggestion on what it might look like. The course manager, you have the same thing, the course title. You have the add button, the title of the whiteboard. Same menus at the top, but these are course card, right? The course card, one per course, and so it is also responsive. So as you make this wider and narrower, for the smallest screen, you would just render just a single course, right, in a single column. As you make it bigger and you're in the medium size, you would show 3 courses, as shown here, 3 courses, one after the other. And in its widest, it would be 6 courses across. Okay, not shown. So yeah, it's responsive. Yes.
Can you hard code the owner and the time, because those aren't in the JSON doc?
The
table has like the owner column with the time.
Oh. So we don't have a way of maintaining state right now, so we don't really have a login. Eventually what we'll do is that depending who's logged in, we'll keep track who actually created it. So for now it could be hard-coded, yeah. But eventually when we create login and registration for real, then we can keep track on the actual owner, yep. So once you click on a particular course, it navigates you to the course editor, which you implemented the static version of this a couple of weeks ago, with the left-hand side being the list of modules, the top being the list of lessons, and down below the list of topics. And then, depending on the topic and the page combination, you would show different content for the widgets. All right. So for now, the widgets we're going to leave alone. We're going to have a static version of this. You can reuse the already content that you implemented for the first assignment. What we're going to be focusing on is making this dynamic. So this is going to be dynamic. So we're going to be adding new courses, removing courses, and then when you select a particular course, you navigate to the course editor, and here you would show the modules for the particular course you clicked on. Right? So if you're in one course, you show certain modules. If you click a different course, you'll see some other modules. Okay. The module will be selectable, so that you can click and highlight the ones that's currently selected. You can remove it. You can add new modules. So here's an input field that it's not. You can barely see it. So yeah, don't do what I did here, which is the contrast is not enough to be able to see what it says. But yeah, this is an input field where you can type a new module and then add new modules. At the top, as you select between the modules, the container will keep track of the currently selected module. Depending on that module that's selected, you would display the lessons for that particular module. So as you select different modules, the lessons change at the top. Okay, and so there's a plus sign over here that allows you to add a new lesson, and presumably here there will be X to be able to remove a particular lesson. Right. Down below that we have a list of topics. Same thing, where you have a plus that allows you to add new topics. Presumably these would have an X also that will allow you to remove the topic. So yeah, so we're going to be focusing on just that, just on the navigational part, navigating modules, navigating lessons, and navigating topics. Next week we'll use Redux to implement this part dynamically. All right. Obviously none of this will be saved to the server, right? We'll focus on that when we talk about RESTful services and posting all this content when you click on save. Right, we'll save all this to the server, and eventually to a database for permanent storage. Okay. Let's see what else. So the next couple of sections just describe the implementation of the module list, implemented in a container called module list. As you click on plus, it creates a new module. The delete icon allows you to remove it. And there's an edit icon as well that's actually not shown here. There should be like a pencil here that allows you to edit the module, the name of the module at least. Lesson tabs is implemented in a lesson tabs container that just iterates over the list of tabs and displays those lessons. And down below you have the topics. And for the widget list, there'll be a widget list container component. But right now, it'll just return a static content for now. All right, so that won't change as all the other parts you select your way through this. As a deliverable, this will be shared in a new GitHub repository and hosted in a completely new Heroku Node.js instance. All right. Don't forget to commit every time you come to a stable version of your application. I'd rather be fairly verbose, right? So every time you reach a milestone, just commit. You can never commit too much. All right. Any questions? Yes. No bonuses. It has made it way too hard to grade. For TAs go nuts trying to grade bonuses, and everybody starts, it's way too contentious. This time around, we removed it.